August 1995, Belgium. In the past 2 months, 4 girls had vanished from opposite ends of the country. The local police departments investigating the disappearances of Anne and Effia and Julie and Melissa were getting nowhere. They had even failed to make a connection between the cases that would point towards a serial kidnapper. But 100 miles away, in Charleroi, another department within the police force, the National Gendarmerie, had received some disturbing information pointing them to a prime suspect. 3 weeks after Anne and Effia's disappearance, a letter had arrived from a woman saying that she had seen 2 teenage girls being held in her son's house. The letter was signed Janine Lawrence, the mother of Marc Dutroux.
She wrote a letter to the police to say that she knew that 2 girls are kept by Dutroux in house. 2 girls of 16 and 18, she said. Anne was 17, Effie 19. Police didn't do anything about it.
In 1993, the Charleroi Gendarmerie had been contacted by one of Marc Dutroux's tenants, Claude Thibault, who said he had some disturbing information about his landlord.
I first met him in 1992. We were in the car. There were 2 girls walking along. I think they'd been drinking. One of them was staggering. And he parked the car at the side of the road and then he suggested kidnapping the 2 girls. You had to creep up behind them, put your hand over their mouth and put them into the car, close the door, the child lock was on so they couldn't get out, and if need be, knock them out. But I refused point blank. I said to Marc Dutroux, "You're mad, I'm not doing that." He took me straight home, and I went straight to the gendarmerie within the hour.
The gendarmes persuaded Thibault to become their informant. Over the next 2 years, he reported that Dutroux was planning to kidnap girls to sell them into a prostitute network.
When he was out in his car or van or whatever, when he saw any little girls, he used to say, "Oh, they're young and fresh, that would sell well." But the police knew this, they knew everything.
3 other informants also came forward confirming Thibault's testimony. But remarkably, in the summer of 1995, when young girls started to vanish, the gendarmes didn't take Dutroux in for questioning, a decision that would have tragic consequences.
Si tu pouvais m'entendre, je veux que tu saches que ta maman, ton papa, ton frère, toute la famille, tous nos amis ne font plus qu'une seule chose depuis que tu es parti, te chercher et t'attendre. On pense tous très très fort à toi.
Whenever in the United Kingdom young children went missing, there would be a national outcry from the very beginning, and there would have been a very large police investigation mounted. Now, somehow in Belgium, none of that seemed to have taken place, and it just went quiet very quickly.
After 3 weeks, the police were drawing a blank. The parents, desperate to know what had happened to their daughters, hired a local detective, who in turn hired a criminal profiler to try to help with the case.
He took a very high risk. This means that he is not a debutant, and with a criminal record for abduction, sequestration and torture, maybe there are 5 or 6 people who fit already this small profile.
Anyone with a criminal record for a similar crime should have been a prime suspect. Marc Dutroux, imprisoned for the rape and abduction of 5 women, had been released just 3 years earlier. Aged 38, Dutroux was an unemployed electrician who lived in Charleroi with his second wife and 2 children. He fitted Carine's profile with uncanny accuracy. Carine gave the profile to the police, but despite his previous conviction, Dutroux was never taken in for questioning.
A few weeks after the disappearing of Julie and Melissa, they know everything about Marc Dutroux, everything they need to know. They know about his trial in 1989. They have 4 people who have informed the police spontaneously to say that Marc Dutroux asked them to help kidnap girls. They know he's He has this stupid idea about cages, putting kids in there. If you need to know where Julie and Melissa are, the police has all the answers. They have the whole file. The question remains, why didn't they arrest him?
Instead of arresting Dutroux, the gendarmes started a secret surveillance operation on his house in Marcinelle, codenamed Othello. In charge was gendarme René Michaud.
René Michaud was the man in charge. He monopolized all the information that came in about Dutroux in the second half of 1995. It's all going to René Michaud. And he puts it in his bag and he says, "This is my secret operation. I keep my information here."
Under Operation Othello, the gendarmes watched the house for 5 months, but for some reason made no further moves on Dutroux. Then, on December the 6th, he was arrested by the local police for car theft and placed in custody. The gendarmes, hearing that the police were planning to search the house, became alarmed.
La gendarmerie, Monsieur Michaud.
The gendarme, Monsieur Michaud, hurried to the examining magistrate, stepped into the room and said, "Don't send an ordinary police commissioner, send me, Michaud, because I know Dutroux, and I've had him under surveillance for some time." So, they didn't send a police commissioner, they sent Michaud.
René Michaud and a team of gendarmes searched the house. They discovered a stash of video cassettes. Michaud later watches them and determines that 2 of the cassettes are of no use to their investigation.
René Michaud put some kind of symbol on it, and it meant not important, don't look at it. These were the 2 most crucial cassettes.
4 years later, the 2 videos would be discovered and watched by another police department. One of them showed Marc Dutroux constructing a ventilation system to his underground cell. The other one showed Dutroux raping a girl on a trip to Slovakia, and other images of a group of young gypsy children, undressed below the waist. Michaud had also missed a 3rd cassette, a recording of the parents' appeal on Julie and Melissa's disappearance. Michaud and a locksmith then went into the cellar that connected to the hidden cell.
He went downstairs into the cellar, alone, with the locksmith who'd opened the door, where the gendarmerie suspected Julie and Melissa were, in a hidden cell, because Dutroux was a man who abducts girls and has a reputation for having a hiding place in his cellar. Well, he went down alone with the locksmith into the cellar.
In the cellar, they discovered chains, vaginal cream, a gynecological speculum.
René Michaud is supposed to be looking for a hidden cage. He hears the whisper of voices of children. There's a guy next to him who's helping him. He hears these voices too, and he says, "Strange, we have children's voices here." The reaction of René Michaud, he shouts, "Silence!" And of course, there's no whispering anymore. And they leave.
The locksmith was questioned, and the locksmith said, "I heard the voices so well that I said to Michaud, I'm not leaving here before we've stripped the place. Those voices are in the house." And Michaud responded, on the 13th of December in the cellar, "Who's the gendarmerie officer here, you or me?" Then I went home, I told my wife, and I kept my mouth shut.
Operation Othello was called off. Michaud reported to his superiors that they had found nothing and that Dutroux was free from suspicion. March 1996. Marc Dutroux is freed from prison, having served 4 months for car theft. He is also free from suspicion of the kidnap of 4 girls the previous summer, as the gendarmerie had called off their secret surveillance of his house in Marcinelle. On the 9th of August, Dutroux and an associate, heroin addict Michel Lelièvre, drove 80 miles to the town of Bétry. In search of young girls, they hung around the local swimming pool. 14-year-old Laetitia Delhez appeared. She didn't return home, but Dutroux's luck was about to run out.
When Laetitia disappears, it happens in Neuchâtel, a very small district, where you had a terrific judge, juge d'instruction, Jean-Marc Conrot. You have a public attorney, Michel Bourlet, who's very touched emotionally about what he saw on television, about these parents. When the phone call comes, a girl has disappeared. This is like a war situation in Neuchâtel.
Within 3 days, the investigators had found a witness who had seen a suspicious white van in the area, and another who could recall part of its number plate.
It was a routine for the police to put this combination in the computer. They see Marc Dutroux convicted for kidnapping 5 girls in 1989. That's how they have found Marc Dutroux.
Dutroux was arrested for the kidnap of Laetitia. Also arrested were Michel Martin and Michel Lelièvre. But it would be another 3 days of interrogation before the police knew what they were dealing with.
Dutroux and Lelièvre were being held and questioned, and Lelièvre was in need of a fix, and Lelièvre at some point cracked, and it all came out.
The interrogators confronted Dutroux with Lelièvre's confession that they knew now where Laetitia was. But Dutroux delivered an even bigger surprise.
Dutroux said, "It's not one girl I'm going to give you, but 2. And he pointed to a photo behind me, and it was Sabine's photo. And I turned round and I said to him, "That's Sabine." And he said to me, "Yes."
They didn't know about Sabine there then. They didn't know anything about this. It was a complete surprise to find a second girl.
The nation rejoiced as Sabine and Laetitia were returned home. Files of other missing children around the country flooded into Neufchâteau. Bourlet and Conrot and their team worked continuously, searching other properties connected with Dutroux.
They still had that hope, maybe we find another cage with living girls somewhere.
But it soon became clear that the search efforts had come too late. On August the 17th, 2 days after the release of Sabine and Laetitia, the bodies of Julie and Melissa were discovered, buried in Dutroux's garden in Sarre-le-Boussier.
Jeudi dernier, c'était l'euphorie. Aujourd'hui, c'est l'horreur, évidemment.
Other children, including Anne and Effia, were still missing. The Belgian police requested the help of the British police team that had been involved in the case of Fred and Rosemary West to help in the search. John Bennett and the Belgian police were to search each of Dutroux's 6 houses in the area, looking for missing children. The search moved to a house in Jumet, where neighbours had informed police that Dutroux had been using digging equipment in the garden. A week after the arrival of Bennett's team, they uncovered the bodies of 2 girls. Anne and Effia had been drugged and buried alive.
Alleszins één vraag voor ons is opgelost. Dat is dat wij niet meer hoeven te zoeken dat ze gevonden zijn.
The nation grieved. For the families, their search had come to an end. But the shockwaves of the case had only just started. Grief turned to anger as details of the bungled investigation came out.
This was in the period that the public opinion discovered Operation Othello, discovered all the things that had gone wrong before the arrest of Dutroux. So their reaction is, there must be somewhere a conspiracy, there must be something, this is unbelievable.
The Neufchâteau authorities instigated a broad and vigorous investigation into a suspected paedophile network, arresting 29 people, including police, gendarmes, and prominent businessmen. But it appeared to some that they had dug too deep. Connerot, the investigating magistrate, was sacked from the case under a tenuous accusation that he had lost his objectivity, compounding rumours of an establishment cover-up.
The situation in Belgium was like a revolution.
Belgians took to the streets in protest. Workmen went on strike, and firemen turned their hoses on official buildings. The protest culminated in the biggest demonstration since the Nuremberg rallies, the White March. White to represent the innocence of the children.
I think it was the biggest manifestation ever. There were no posters in the streets to say you go to Brussels that day for the White March. It was a word that was spread amongst Belgians. There wasn't even much publicity on radio and television. Everybody knew that you had to be there. There were more than 300,000 people marching to the streets of Brussels.
Merci à tous d'être venus si nombreux. Merci. Merci aussi à tout le monde d'être venu.
To me, the crucial sentence in the final report of the Parliamentary Commission was, there are so many errors, so many mistakes during this investigation that it can't be explained only by mistake. There must be more.
The court case finally got underway in 2004, 8 years after Dutroux's capture, in the new Palais de Justice at Arlon. 500 witnesses were called to testify. Dutroux, the most hated man in Belgium, along with Michel Martin and Michel Lelièvre, was present in court, protected behind bulletproof glass. The court heard that Julie and Melissa had been alive in the cell at the time that René Michaud had searched the house. With Dutroux in custody for car theft, they had been left for 4 months with no electricity or heating. Michel Martin, visiting the house to feed her dogs, claimed that she'd been too afraid to go into the cell, so she'd pushed bags of food through the cell door. Julie and Melissa, unable to reach it, had starved to death. After 4 months, Dutroux was found guilty of the kidnap and rape of the 6 girls and the murder of Anne and Effia. He received life imprisonment. Michel Martin received 30 years, and Lelièvre 25 years. But the trial had raised more questions than it had answered. 30 witnesses had died in mysterious circumstances in the run-up to the trial. DNA tests and hair samples had gone missing or hadn't been performed.
die Maas bei Lüttich. Hier wird am 7. April 98 beim Säubern des Wasserwerks eine Frauenleiche aus dem Fluss gezogen. Die Autopsie zeigt, sie wurde geschlagen und gewürgt. Es ist die Zeugin Anna Konjevoda. Die Zahnärztin Brigitte Genard war befreundet mit Dutroux Mitangeklagtem, dem Brüsseler Geschäftsmann Michel Nioul. Sie gilt als wichtige Zeugin. Ein Jahr nach dem Beginn der Affäre ist sie tot. Selbstmord, heißt es. Hubert Massa ist Oberstaatsanwalt und auf dem Höhepunkt seiner Karriere. Er arbeitet erst seit kurzem am Fall Dutroux, da findet man ihn erschossen in seinem Büro. Mysteriös die Umstände. Er hat keinen Brief für seine Frau und seine Kinder hinterlassen. Trotzdem entscheidet die Staatsanwaltschaft Selbstmord. Bernard Routemont ist Filmemacher und handelt mit Pornokassetten. Er wird der Entführung eines Mädchens verdächtigt. Es soll eine Verbindung zum Fall Dutroux geben. Außerdem findet man bei einer Hausdurchsuchung Kindersachen und Spielzeug. Nachdem er schon mehrfach ergebnislos verhört wurde, meldet er sich eines Tages telefonisch bei der Polizei. Er möchte auspacken. Auf dem Weg zu diesem Termin rast er mit seinem Auto gegen eine Hauswand. Tot. Auf diesem Gelände fand man die Leichen von Anne und Evje. Hier wohnte der Dutroux-Komplize Bernard Weinstein. Dutroux soll seinem früheren Helfer zunächst das Betäubungsmittel Rohypnol gegeben und ihn dann lebendig begraben haben. Man vermutet, dass Weinstein aussteigen wollte. Wurde er deshalb ermordet? Wollte Dutroux verhindern, dass sein Helfer zum gefährlichen Zeugen würde? Weinstein nahm die Antwort mit in dieses fast anonyme Grab. Guy Goebbels war Gendarme in Grasse-Hologne, dem Ort, an dem Julie und Melissa verschwanden. Er arbeitete von Anfang an dem Fall. Seine Kollegen finden ihn eines Tages tot in seiner Wohnung, mit der Dienstwaffe erschossen. Offiziell beging Guy Goebbels Selbstmord, doch auch hier gibt es Zweifel. Familienangehörige sagen, er habe keine größeren Probleme gehabt, nichts, was eine solche Tat rechtfertigen könnte. Das Dorf Commiers bei Charleroi. Polizisten suchen hier nach Spuren in Zusammenhang mit dem Tod von Bruno Tagliaferro, ein Schrotthändler und Bekannter von Dutroux. Seine Frau Fabienne behauptet, er wurde umgebracht.
Seit seinem Tod kämpfe ich verzweifelt darum, dass die Wahrheit ans Licht kommt. Bis zum Schluss.
Was hat er Ihnen vor seinem Tod gesagt?
Dass alles vorbei sei, dass er zu viel wüsste und dass er bald sterben würde.
Das Ergebnis einer nachträglichen Autopsie gibt Fabienne recht. Ihr Mann, Bruno Tagliaferro, wurde vergiftet.
Dutroux wollte Tagliaferro umbringen lassen. Aber weshalb, sagte er mir nicht.
Ihn umbringen?
Ja, ihn und seine Frau. Er hat dafür 50.000 belgische Francs und die Waffe geboten.
Wann haben Sie das gehört?
Ich saß bei Dutroux im Auto. Da hat er es mir gesagt.
Als auch Fabienne Jopin bedroht wird, bittet sie vergeblich um Polizeischutz. Sie glaubt, wichtige Unterlagen ihres Mannes entdeckt zu haben. Kurz danach findet ihr Sohn sie tot im Schlafzimmer, halb verbrannt neben ihrem Bett. Die Matratze wurde mit Methanol überschüttet. Die Justiz geht von Selbstmord oder Unfall aus.
Wissen Sie, jemand, der sich umbringen will, lässt nicht die Waschmaschine laufen, setzt nicht Kartoffeln mit Salz zum Kochen auf.
Auch ein Unfall ist unwahrscheinlich. Auf den Polizeifotos vom Tatort, die wir einsehen konnten, stand die leere Methanolflasche zugeschraubt auf dem Nachttisch.
Sie war keine Spinnerin. Sie wusste ganz genau, was sie tat. Sie war auch nicht verrückt. Sie wusste nur nicht mehr, wem sie noch vertrauen konnte.
Eine weitere Zeugin stirbt, als sie nachts auf dem Weg nach Hause mit 80 Stundenkilometern gegen die Brückenrampe kracht. Ein Unfall, sagt der Gerichtsexperte. Gina Pardans ist Sozialarbeiterin und betreut Opfer eines Kinderpornorings. Einige Tage vor dem Unfall schreibt sie einen Brief. Sie habe im Zusammenhang mit ihrer Arbeit Todesdrohungen bekommen. Sie fürchte um ihr Leben. Der Polizei meldet sie, man habe ihr mit einem Autounfall gedroht.
In dieser Zeit wird Gina regelmäßig mit dem Tod bedroht. Sie wird beobachtet und verfolgt. Wir stellten auch merkwürdige Probleme an ihrem Telefon fest. Im Zug wurde sie von einem Mann angesprochen, der ihr sagte, dass sie besser mit ihrer Arbeit aufhören sollte. Sonst würde sie nicht mehr lange leben.
Vor ihrem Tod erzählte sie Freunden von einem Videoband, auf dem ein Mädchen bei einer Sexfete umgebracht wird. Sie glaubte, einen der Täter erkannt zu haben. Es sei ein Bekannter von Nioul. Als die Dutroux-Affäre beginnt, meldet sich Regina Luff, verheiratet, 4 Kinder, Besitzerin einer Hundepension, als anonyme Zeugin beim Untersuchungsrichter.
Sie wurde auf Bitte der Justiz von einem Team der Universität Leuven untersucht, unter Vorsitz des Professors Igot, der einen guten Ruf auf diesem Gebiet hat. Diese Experten haben bestätigt, dass Regina Luff ohne jeden Zweifel in ihrer Kindheit massivem sexuellen Missbrauch ausgesetzt war. Professor Igot präzisiert, dass es sich lohnt, zu untersuchen, was sie erzählt. Davon sind sie alle überzeugt. Und wenn das, was sie sagt, auch nicht als juristischer Beweis genutzt werden kann, sollte trotzdem aufgrund ihrer Aussagen ermittelt werden.
Während der tagelangen Verhöre erzählt sie von grauenvollen Erlebnissen über reiche und mächtige Männer, die bei Sexfeten junge Mädchen vergewaltigen, foltern und manchmal töten. Die Ermittler überprüfen einige ihrer Aussagen und meinen, es gäbe genügend Grund, sie ernst zu nehmen. Ihre Aussage: Dutroux sei Zulieferer und Michel Nioul der Organisator eines Kinderpornorings gewesen.
Nioul and Dutroux had been seen at the site of the latest abduction the night before. They'd been in constant phone contact the day it happened. And the next day, Nioul gave £10,000 worth of drugs to an accomplice of Dutroux. One witness claimed Nioul had ordered a girl.
When I saw him walking down the stairs, I thought that I knew everything about him. It was a shock. I thought, finally, they stopped him.
Regina Luff was one of the first to come forward. She said that as a child she'd been abused for many years in a paedophile network involving Nioul and Dutroux.
I remember Jean-Michel Nioul as a very cruel man. He abused children in a very sadistic way.
She says that at the age of 12 she was taken with other children to sex parties. And, she told investigators, Dutroux was there, working for Nioul.
Dutroux was a boy who brought drugs, cocaine and something like that to these parties, who brought some girls, watched girls on these parties. Nioul, he was a sort of party beast. And Dutroux was more on the side.
Nioul denies he's ever met Regina Luff, but her stories never changed. Nioul, she said, was one of those who organised the parties and invited the cream of Belgian society, judges, politicians and influential businessmen, in order to compromise them.
It was big business, yeah. And it was very well organized, too. There's a lot of money going on there, and a lot of blackmail also. They had a lot of parties. They filmed it even. So yes, it exists. I know it sounds crazy. And I know that there is a big taboo on everything like that. But it exists, you know.
Regina Luff's story was horrific, but her account of a violent paedophile underworld was by now reinforced by new witnesses, some of whom also named influential people. The investigation began. The witnesses' identities were protected. Each was given a code name beginning with X. Regina was X1. They went up to X9. Their testimonies became known as Belgium's X-Files. The task of trying to verify them fell to a young police investigator.
They were telling stories we haven't heard before in our lives, things we couldn't believe at the first. So we told ourselves, is this true? Could this be true? And when it is true, it's frightening that things like that could happen. We had a special room for the interviews. It was specially equipped for people who have been victimized by such matters. There was a camera in the room. They were done mostly in the evening or the early hours. When the interviews were finished, they were written down by a few people of my team, all the way, from the first word to the last.
But then out of the blue, the investigation was stopped.
We received a message that we couldn't investigate anymore, just like that. We were sent home. Just like that, without an explanation, because our work hasn't been done all right. Very strange.
Regina Louf got a call from a member of the new team assigned in their place. His motive was clear.
He said, well, we have to search for mistakes you made now. And you have to prove now that you are right. And I said, no, I don't have to prove that I'm right. You have to investigate if I'm right or not. I'm not a police officer. I can do house search and I can't interrogate my abusers. You have to do that. I just can tell my story and make testimony. That's all I can do. And he said, wrong. You have to prove it.
News about Regina's story began to leak out. When the media took it up, it was to destroy her.
X1 et ses fantasmes, une enquête au-delà du réel.
Madame, Monsieur, bonsoir. L'affaire du trou s'est enrichie de...
The flagship programme of the government-funded French-language channel was unequivocal. Regina Louf, a sinister and deranged liar.
Why were you taken off this case?
I wish I knew. Perhaps we were touching something we couldn't touch. Some people say this, we didn't have to prove at that moment to say things like that. But perhaps we were coming closer to some things, yeah, perhaps.
Like what things?
I don't know, something Belgium or the world shouldn't know about